The bottle shattered against the dashboard like a gunshot in the dead of night. Shards of brown glass exploding across the windshield of Daniel's beat-up Ford pickup. "You're a goddamn embarrassment to this family. Dan, always have been." His father's voice boomed from the passenger seat, thick with whiskey and years of bottled rage. The words slicing deeper than any knife ever could. Daniel gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles bleached white. The rain-slicked roads of rural Ohio blurring ahead as he floored the gas, wondering if this time he'd just keep driving until the map ran out. The tires hydroplaned on the interstate blacktop, sending the truck fishtailing toward the guardrail. But Daniel wrenched it back with a curse that echoed his old man's slurs. It was supposed to be a simple drive home from the airport, picking up Dad after his latest stint in the oil fields of North Dakota, pretending like the world hadn't cracked open between them 2 years ago, when Daniel finally spat out the truth over Thanksgiving turkey. "I'm gay. All right? Deal with it." The room had gone silent then, forks clattering like dominoes, Mom's eyes welling up as if he'd confessed to murder. But Dad? He'd erupted like Vesuvius, hurling that first bottle across the living room, screaming about sin and shame and how Daniel was dragging the family name through the mud of some liberal hellhole back east. Now, here they were, 2 hours into the silent treatment broken only by the old man's venom, the cab reeking of bourbon and regret. Daniel's phone buzzed on the seat between them, probably his brother Chris, checking in like the golden child he was. Chris, 3 years older, the one who'd stayed in Milford, Ohio, married his high school sweetheart, popped out a kid, and climbed the ladder at Hargrove Industries like it was greased with holy water. Daniel? He'd bolted to New York after college, chasing graphic design gigs and the faint hope of a life where he didn't have to hide. But family pulled like gravity, especially when Mom's cancer scare last month yanked him back for support. Support. What a joke. "Pull over," Dad grunted, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, the jagged edge of the broken bottle glinting in the dashboard light. Daniel didn't. He couldn't. The exit for Milford loomed on the sign ahead, a green beacon mocking him with its promise of normalcy. "I said pull the fuck over." Dad lunged, grabbing for the wheel, and the world tilted into chaos. Screeching brakes, the acrid burn of rubber, and then the sickening crunch as they slammed into the median. Daniel's forehead kissed the airbag with a puff of talcum powder, stars bursting behind his eyelids. When the fog cleared, sirens wailed in the distance, red and blue lights painting the rain like abstract art. Dad was slumped against the door, blood trickling from a gash on his temple, muttering incoherently about queers ruining everything. Paramedics swarmed, prying them out like sardines from a can, and Daniel let them haul him onto a stretcher, numb as the Ford drip hit his vein. Hospital lights buzzed overhead as they wheeled him in, the ER a fluorescent purgatory of beeps and moans. Chris arrived first, bursting through the curtain with his wife, Sarah, trailing like a worried shadow. "Jesus, Dan, what the hell happened?" Chris's face was a mask of brotherly concern, but Daniel caught the flicker, the same one he'd seen since they were kids, when Chris covered for him after Dad's belt found his back for acting funny around the neighbor boys. Sarah hovered, squeezing Daniel's hand, her engagement ring cool against his skin. "You're okay, hon. That's what matters." But it wasn't. Not when the cops showed up with their clipboards and breathalyzers, piecing together the crash like a bad country song. Dad's BAC was twice the limit. Daniel's was clean. Assault charges floated in the air like bad smoke. But family ties being what they were in Milford, it all got hushed under domestic dispute. Daniel signed the discharge papers at dawn, ribs aching from the seatbelt, and Chris drove him home to the old Victorian on Elm Street, the family house, creaking with ghosts and unpaid bills. Mom was waiting in the kitchen, her chemo-thinned hair tucked under a scarf, eyes red-rimmed but fierce. "Your father's at the station. Says it was an accident." She poured coffee with trembling hands, the steam curling like unspoken apologies. Daniel sank into a chair, the weight of it all pressing down. "He called me a disgrace, Ma. Again. Like I'm the one who needs fixing." She reached across the table, her palm rough from years of diner shifts. "He's scared, Danny. Scared of losing you to that city life. Scared of what folks say." Folks. Milford's rumor mill ground slower than molasses but sharper than switchblades. Gossip about the fairy who fled to New York, the one who sent postcards with skyline views instead of grandkids. Daniel had built walls there, dated quietly, poured his soul into freelance designs for queer mags and indie bands. But home? Home was a minefield. Chris cleared his throat from the doorway, tie loosened from his morning rush to Hargrove. "Look, Dan, stay a bit. Help with Ma. I got a lead on some work, temp graphic stuff for the company newsletter. Pays decent. Hargrove Industries. The steel mill turned tech hub on the edge of town, where Chris slaved as a mid-level manager, crunching numbers for execs who jetted in from Chicago." Daniel nodded, too tired to argue. What else was he gonna do? Crawl back to his sublet in Brooklyn with bruises and a busted truck? The first week blurred into forced normalcy. Grocery runs with Mom, dodging Dad's sullen silences when he slunk home on bail, fixing up Chris's kids' nursery murals to earn his keep. Milford hadn't changed. Same strip mall with the busted pinball arcade. Same Friday night lights at the high school field where Daniel once dreamed of escaping on a scholarship that never came. He sketched in stolen moments, charcoal lines bleeding into pages of half-formed men with eyes like storm clouds, bodies tangled in sheets he hadn't felt in months. Then came the office gig. Chris dragged him to Hargrove on a drizzly Tuesday, the plant's vast warehouses humming with robotic arms welding circuit boards. "Just lay out some charts. Nothing fancy," Chris said, clapping Daniel's shoulder too hard. The bullpen was a sea of cubicles, fluorescent purgatory lit by screens and coffee stains. Daniel set up at a borrowed desk, Adobe humming to life, when the corner office door swung open. William Hargrove stepped out like he'd been sculpted from the mill's own steel, tall, broad-shouldered, with salt and pepper hair cropped military short and a jaw that could cut glass. Mid-40s, maybe, in a charcoal suit that screamed old money, but his eyes, hazel flecked with gold, held a weariness that softened the edges. He was the boss, the heir who'd pivoted the family steel fortune into AI components, the guy whose TED Talk on Rust Belt Renaissance had gone semi-viral. Chris straightened like a soldier at inspection. "Mr. Hargrove, this is my brother Daniel. He's handling the visuals for the quarterly." William's gaze flicked to Daniel, lingering a beat too long, appraising, not judging. "Heard about the crash. Tough break." His voice was low, resonant, like bourbon over ice, with that faint Chicago drawl from boarding school days. Daniel mumbled a thanks, heat creeping up his neck under the scrutiny. William nodded, then vanished back into his lair of glass walls and deal memos. By lunch, whispers rippled through the break room. William Hargrove, the straight-arrow widower who'd lost his wife to cancer 5 years back, the philanthropist funding local LGBTQ youth centers on the sly. Daniel caught fragments, generous, but distant. Doesn't suffer fools. He kept his head down, fingers flying over the trackpad, turning spreadsheets into sleek infographics that popped like fireworks. That night, at the family dinner, awkward affair with Dad nursing a beer and glowering at the peas, Chris's phone lit up. "Holy shit, Dan. Hargrove wants to see your mocks. In his office. Tomorrow." Mom's face brightened like dawn. Even Dad grunted approval, mistaking it for a foot in the door of respectability. Daniel lay awake in his boyhood room, posters of Nirvana peeling from the walls, heart hammering. It wasn't just a job. It was a glimpse of something solid in the quicksand of home. The meeting was at 9 sharp. William's office overlooked the Ohio River, fog rolling off the water like cigarette smoke. He leaned against his desk, sleeves rolled to elbows revealing forearms corded from weekend hikes. Not gym reps. "These are good, Daniel. Clean. Tell me about the color scheme. Why the blues?" Daniel swallowed, launching into his pitch. Cerulean for trust, navy for depth, accents of teal like the river at twilight. William listened, chin in hand, a half-smile tugging his lips. "You're not just phoning it in. Most freelancers slap shit together." The curse landed casual, disarming. They talked for an hour, design bleeding into Milford's dying Main Street, the ghost of steel unions, Daniel's escape to New York. William shared snippets. Growing up privileged in the shadow of the mill, burying his wife under a sky too blue for grief. As Daniel packed his laptop, William's hand brushed his. A fleeting touch. Electric. "Stick around. We could use your eye full-time." The offer hung there, laced with possibility. Daniel nodded, pulse thundering, unaware that across town, Dad was already poisoning the well at the VFW bar, spinning tales of his disgraceful son worming into the big leagues. Weeks melted into rhythm. Daniel rented a cheap apartment above the hardware store, close enough to check on Mom but worlds away from Dad's rages. At Hargrove, he thrived, revamping the company brand with minimalist logos that whispered innovation, collaborating with engineers on AR prototypes. William became a fixture. Morning coffees in the exec lounge turning into late-night brainstorms over takeout Thai. The boss's laugh a rare rumble that lit Daniel's veins like fireflies. It started innocent, a shared playlist of Springsteen and Sufjan Stevens, William admitting he'd donated to GLAAD after his wife's passing. "Because hate's a luxury I can't afford." Daniel opened up too. The beatings masked as tough love. The first fumbling kiss behind the bleachers with a teammate who later denied it all. William listened without pity, his presence an anchor in the storm. One evening, as thunder rattled the office windows, William poured scotch from a decanter etched with Hargrove crests. "You're brave, Daniel. Coming back here takes guts." Their eyes locked, the air thick with unsaid things. Daniel's breath hitched. "Or stupidity." William stepped closer, thumb tracing Daniel's jaw, gentle, questioning. The kiss ignited slow, then fierce. William's hands fisting in Daniel's shirt as if afraid he'd vanish. They broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, the world narrowing to the hitch of breath and the patter of rain. "Your trouble," William murmured, but his smile said otherwise. They tumbled into it then. Stolen weekends at William's lakeside cabin north of town. Bodies mapping each other under flannel sheets. Whispers of futures unmarred by small-town stares. Daniel felt seen, whole, the disgrace label fraying at the edges. Chris knew, of course, caught them once in the parking lot. William's hand on Daniel's thigh in the truck. "Just be careful, bro. Dad's on a tear." Careful. The word haunted Daniel as autumn leaves turned the riverbanks to fire. At Thanksgiving, the family gathering loomed like a guillotine. Mom begged for normalcy. Dad seethed in silence. Daniel arrived with pie from the bakery. William's text buzzing in his pocket. Miss you already. Cabin this weekend? He smiled, slipping into the fray. But Dad had other plans. Midway through Grace, as turkey carved and yams passed, he slammed his fist on the table. Heard you're shacking up with the boss. Boy. That true? Spreading your filth to keep a job. The room froze. Chris choked on his water. Sarah paled, shielding the kid's ears. Mom whispered, Tom, please. Daniel's fork clattered. It's not like that. William's a good man, but Dad was a freight train, barreling on. Good man? Fucking a queer like you? He's probably using you to look woke for the board. You're a disgrace. Daniel always were. Get out before you ruin us all. The words landed like blows, echoing the crash, the bottle, the years of hiding. Daniel shoved back his chair, storming into the night, rain lashing his face as he peeled out in his repaired truck. He drove blindly, ending up at the diner on Route 7, the one with the flickering sign, a neutral ground for truckers and strays. Slumped in a booth, coffee going cold, he didn't hear the bell jingle until William slid in across from him, coat dripping, face etched with fury. Chris called. Said your old man's at it again. William's hand covered Daniel's, steady as bedrock. You don't have to take this shit. Daniel laughed, bitter. Easy for you to say. You've got the castle. But William's eyes darkened, grip tightening. I've got you. And I'm done watching from the sidelines. The diner's fluorescent buzz felt like a migraine, the jukebox crooning Patsy Cline as if heartbreak needed a soundtrack. Daniel stared at the checkered linoleum, William's thumb stroking circles on his knuckles, a lifeline in the fluorescent glare. What now? Daniel muttered, voice raw. Crawl back. Pretend it's fine? Or bolt again? Leave Ma to the wolves. William leaned in, scent of rain and sandalwood cologne wrapping around him like a promise. We face it. Together. He flagged the waitress for the tab, dropping cash without looking, then tugged Daniel toward the door. Outside, the lot was a slick mirror of sodium lights, puddles reflecting the neon eat here like a cruel joke. William's SUV idled at the curb, wipers slapping rhythmically, but he didn't move for it. Instead, he backed Daniel against the truck's tailgate, hands framing his face, kissing him fierce and unyielding, claiming, not consoling. You're not a disgrace, William growled against his lips, breath hot. You're the best damn thing that's happened to this town or me. Daniel melted into it, fists bunching William's coat, the world fading to the drum of rain and the ache in his chest. They drove back to Daniel's apartment in silence, bodies entwined on the lumpy futon until dawn, William's whispers chasing shadows. I've got your back. Always. Monday hit like a hangover. Hargrove buzzed with pre-holiday frenzy, year-end reports, holiday party invites circulating like confetti. Daniel buried himself in finals for the rebrand, but eyes followed him. Sidelong glances from the accounting drones, Chris's tense nods in the halls. By noon, rumor had metastasized whispers of the boss's boy toy, laced with small-town venom. Daniel ignored it until HR called him in. Marge Wilkins, a no-nonsense widow with cat-eye glasses, steepled her fingers over a personnel file. Fraternization policy. Daniel. Mr. Hargrove's aware, but protocol. She trailed off, sympathy softening her edges. Just sign this conflict waiver. Keeps things tidy. Daniel scrawled his name, stomach twisting. Tidy. As if love came in forms. William cornered him in the supply closet later. Ironic, that stockings of paper towels tumbling as he pulled Daniel close. It's bullshit, but necessary. Bored breathing down my neck. His kiss was apology and fire, hands roaming under Daniel's Henley. Tonight. My place. We'll burn the policy manual. The penthouse atop Hargrove Tower was worlds from Milford's grit. Floor-to-ceiling windows framing the river's serpentine gleam. Leather sectional piled with architecture tomes. A kitchen island gleaming like a showroom. William cooked, seared scallops with risotto, effortless as breathing. Candlelight dancing in his eyes as they ate cross-legged on the rug. Wine flowed. Stories spilled. William's closeted college flings. The ache of burying Elena without admitting the marriage had been more partnership than passion. I thought that was it for me, he confessed, tracing Daniel's collarbone. Then you walk in, all fire and lines, and fuck, Dan. You make me feel alive. Daniel straddled him then, slow grind of hips, shedding clothes like old skin. They made love with the city lights as witness, urgent, reverent. William's body a landscape of scars and strength. Daniel's hands learning every ridge. Afterward, tangled in silk sheets, William murmured plans. A trip to the Keys over New Year's, maybe broaching us to the family after the holidays. Hope bloomed fragile in Daniel's chest, a weed pushing through concrete. But Milford had teeth. Dad's VFW rants bore fruit at the company holiday party. A cavernous warehouse decked in tinsel and twinkle lights, caterers hawking pigs in blankets to tipsy execs. Daniel arrived on William's arm, deliberate navy blazer tailored just so, William in a cashmere v-neck that hugged his chest like sin. Heads turned. Chris shot a thumbs up from the bar, Sarah beaming beside him. For an hour, it was magic. William's hand low on Daniel's back during toasts, stolen kisses in the coat room, laughter bubbling like champagne. Then Dad crashed the gate. Tom Riley, red-faced and reeking of cheap scotch, barreled through the crowd like a bull in a china shop, badge from his old union days pinned crooked to his flannel. Where's the fairy faggot and his sugar daddy? Heads swiveled. Gasps rippled. Daniel froze mid-sip of eggnog, William's arm stiffening around him. Chris lunged forward. Dad, not here. But Tom shoved him aside, zeroing on Daniel with eyes like flints. You, he snarled, jabbing a finger that trembled with rage or DTs. Crawling into Hargrove's bed to buy your way legit? My own blood, whoring for a paycheck. Disgrace to God, country, and every red-blooded American. Spittle flecked his beard. The room held its breath, a tableau of horror. Sarah clutched the baby closer. Mom, who'd tagged along for support, whimpered from the sidelines. Daniel's vision tunneled, old wounds ripping wide, the bottle, the belt, the bleacher denial crashing back. I'm not, he started, voice cracking, but William surged forward, shielding him like a wall of oak. Enough, Mr. Riley. William's tone was arctic, honed from boardroom battles, but laced with something primal. He stepped between them, broad frame dwarfing Tom's paunch. Daniel's twice the man you'll ever be. Talent, heart, integrity. You want to talk disgrace? Look in the mirror, sir. drowning your failures in booze while your son's out here building something real. The warehouse echoed with the slap of those words. Tom's face purpled, fist clenching, but security materialized, Chris's doing, no doubt, escorting him out amid murmurs and averted eyes. The party deflated like a punctured balloon, guests drifting to exits with hasty goodnights. William turned to Daniel, cupping his face, thumbs swiping tears Daniel hadn't realized were falling. "You okay?" Daniel nodded, numb, leaning into the solid warmth. "Heard worse. Just didn't expect it here." They fled to the SUV, William gunning it toward the riverfront, tires humming on wet pavement. At a pull-off overlooking the water, he killed the engine, pulling Daniel across the console into a crushing embrace. "I'm proud of you," William whispered, lips brushing temple. "For standing there. For everything." They stayed like that till the rain eased, stars pricking the clouds, a fragile truce in the war. Christmas came cloaked in tinsel tension. Mom hosted a pared-down affair. Just family, no Hargrove invites to keep the peace. Dad sulked in his recliner, nursing a flask hidden in his robe, grunts his only contribution to small talk. Chris played referee, bouncing his toddler on his knee while Sarah passed deviled eggs with forced cheer. Daniel unwrapped socks from Mom, practical, loving, and a sketchpad from Chris, the gesture mending something frayed. But undercurrents churned. Dad's eyes bored into Daniel across the tree, branches sagging with ornaments from Christmases past. When Mom retired early, claiming fatigue, the air thickened. "So," Dad drawled, lighting a Winston, smoke curling like accusations. "That fancy boss fix your mess yet? Or you still beggin' for scraps?" Chris tensed. "Dad." But Daniel held up a hand. "Steady. William doesn't fix me. He sees me." The words hung, defiant. Dad barked a laugh. Hollow. "Sees a pretty ass. More like. Wait till the shine wears off. You'll be back in that city gutter, cryin' for home." The barb hooked deep, but Daniel rose, coat in hand. "Homes where they don't call you disgrace for loving who you love." He left to the crackle of the Yule log on TV, driving to William's cabin under a waxing moon. William waited with cocoa and a fire, no questions, just arms open wide. They spent the night tracing constellations on skin, William's voice a bomb. "You're my home, Dan. Fuck the rest." New Year's dawned crisp, the Keys a fever dream of turquoise waves and conch shells. They flew commercial, William insisting on equality, landing in Key West with backpacks and no itinerary. Duval Street pulsed with drag brunches and rainbow flags, a queer utopia where Daniel walked hand in hand without flinching. They snorkeled reefs teeming with parrotfish, bodies buoyant in salt water. Evenings dissolved into sunset sails, rum punches loosening tongues. On New Year's Eve, fireworks bloomed over Mallory Square, but they watched from a secluded beach, blankets spread under palms. William pulled a velvet box from his pocket. Not a ring, but a key fob, engraved with the cabin's address. "Not pressure," he said. "Earnest. Just place that's ours. If you want." Daniel's throat tightened, kissing him salt-sweet. "I want." Back in Milford, reality reasserted. Work ramped up, Hargrove pitching a queer-inclusive diversity initiative, Daniel's designs at the helm. Pride swelled, but so did scrutiny. Anonymous emails trickled into HR, nepotism via bedroom, board whispers grew, Chris warned of audits. Then betrayal struck like lightning. It was Valentine's, A quiet dinner at Antonio's. Candlelit pasta. William's foot hooked around Daniel's under the table. As they stepped into the lot, fogging breaths in February chill. Headlights pinned them. Dad's rusted F-150 idling like a predator. But he wasn't alone. Leaning against the hood, smirking in the shadows, was Elena's brother, Mark Hargrove, William's late wife's sibling, a venture capitalist with a grudge against the help meddling in family legacy. "Cozy," Mark drawled, cigarette glowing. Dad straightened, emboldened. "Told ya, Billy boy. Your boy's poison." William stiffened. "Mark, this isn't." But Mark cut him off, thrusting a folder thick as a Bible. "Board's calling emergency session. Leaked docs. Your boyfriend's little freelance side hustle? Padding invoices for kickbacks. Nepotism on steroids." Daniel's blood iced. He'd done no such thing. Every penny accounted. Designs above board. But the folder's printouts screamed forgery. Timestamps fudged. Figures inflated. William snatched it, face ashen. "This is bullshit. Fabricated." Mark shrugged. "Venomous. Prove it." "Meanwhile, your golden boy's tanking the stock. And Tom here, he's got stories. Disgraced son corrupting the throne." Dad's leer confirmed the alliance. Booze for cash. Betrayal for spite. William rounded on him. "You sold out your own blood?" But Dad spat at Daniel's feet. "Ain't blood. It's a curse." They sped away, folder scorching the dash. William's jaw granite. At the penthouse, he tore through pages under desk lamp glare, Daniel pacing like a caged wolf. "It's Dad and Mark. They teamed up, probably paid some hack to mock this up." William nodded, dialing his lawyer, but exhaustion etched his features. "If the board buys it, could cost me everything. The company. Us." Daniel's heart fractured. "Then let me go. I'll quit. Clear your name." William yanked him close. Fierce. "Not a chance. We fight." But doubt seeded. A whisper, disgrace. Always. The board meeting loomed like Judgment Day. Milford's winter wind howling omens. The Hargrove boardroom was a coliseum of mahogany and malice. Panoramic windows framing Milford's skeletal factories like trophies of conquest. Daniel waited outside, suit borrowed from Chris, ill-fitting, a noose of polyester, while William faced the lions within, silver-haired suits from Chicago, ledgers open like accusatory Bibles. He'd insisted Daniel stay close, for moral support, but each tick of the wall clock carved deeper into his gut. Forged docs or not, the optics screamed scandal. CEO entangled with the help, family skeletons rattling chains. Inside, voices leaked through the vent, Mark's oily baritone dominating. William's blinded by infatuation. This consultant, Daniel Riley, his brother's plant, no less. Invoices bloated 20%. Personal perks funneled through design fees. This embezzlement light, folks. And the Riley patriarch confirms his son's a liability. Disgrace was the word. Snickers rippled. William's rebuttal cut sharp. Fabrications. I've got forensics en route. Daniel's work tripled our engagement metrics. Check the analytics. But doubt festered. A vote loomed. Censure, demotion, or worse, ouster. Daniel's phone buzzed. "Chris, hang tight." Digging dirt on Mark. Loyalty, frayed but fierce. Hours crawled. Daniel haunted the lobby coffee machine, styrofoam cups piling like unanswered prayers. When the doors finally parted, William emerged hollow-eyed. Tyascu. Suspended pending investigation. 2 weeks. Marks pushing for permanent. Daniel's knees buckled onto the leather couch in William's office, the space already feeling like a tomb. My fault. William knelt, hands on thighs steadying. Ours to fix. Lawyers on the forgeries, auditors inbound. But his kiss, when it came, tasted of ash, desperation masked as desire. They parted tense. William to damage control, Daniel to the wolf's den home. Mom's kitchen smelled of simmering chili, but her hug crushed like a vice. Chris told me, your father's. Unrepentant. Dad had doubled down, holed up at the VFW spinning yarns of vindication. Daniel helped chop onions, knife flashing like therapy, spilling the saga, the leak, the board, William's peril. Mom's eyes welled, chemo scars faint under powder. He loves you, Danny. That's worth fighting for. She pressed a worn photo into his palm. Toddler Daniel and teen Chris, gap-toothed grins on a tire swing. Families bend. Don't break. Chris arrived post-bedtime, rain-slicked and grim, laptop under arm. Sarah minded the kid. This was brother turf. They huddled at the scarred oak table, screens glowing like campfires. Mark's the snake, Chris said, pulling files. Elena's death hit him hard, blamed William for not fighting enough, been gunning for control since, whispering to investors. And Dad? Mark bought his silence with a consulting gig. Ironic. Huh? Union pension supplement. Daniel's laugh choked. So Dad pimped me out for beer money. Chris winced. Not you, his grudge. Always hated how I defended you. This? Payback. They traced the digital trail. IP addresses bouncing to a shady Akron firm. Timestamps aligning with Dad's bar tabs. Evidence enough for a counterpunch. Leak it to the local rag, Chris urged. Transparent. Humanizes William. Dawn broke as Daniel drafted the press release. Raw, unfiltered Hargrove under siege, forged lies and family betrayal. He hit send to William's PR team, then crashed on the couch. Dreams tangled in boardroom echoes and Dad's snarls. The Milford Gazette hit stands like a grenade. Front page splash. Hargrove heir targeted in smear campaign. Daniel's byline. Ghosted through Chris. Framed it humanistic. A love story under fire. Resilience against Rust Belt bigotry. Calls flooded. Reporters sniffing blood. Allies rallying. William texted, brilliant. Board reconvenes Friday. Stay fierce. But betrayal's aftershocks quaked personal. Dad ambushed him at the hardware store apartment, pounding fists on the door till paint chipped, bellowing through the jam. You sicked the press on me, you little shit, airing family dirt like some fag activist. Daniel cracked the door, chain taut. You started it, Dad. With Mark. For what? Pride. Tom's face twisted, veins bulging. Pride? You're the one parading with that rich prick, making us a joke. I gave you life, boy, roof, food, and you repay with this. He thrust a crumpled paper forward. Gazette photo of William and Daniel at the holiday party, circled in red. Disgrace. Get out. Don't come crawling back. The door slammed, lock clicking like finality. Daniel slid down the frame, sobs racking, raw, ugly, the boy who'd once idolized his father reduced to rubble. He called William, voice splintered. He disowned me. For real this time. William was there in minutes, scooping him into the SUV, driving wordless to the cabin. They didn't make love. They held. William's heartbeat a metronome against Daniel's ear. "You're enough," he murmured into the dark. More than. Friday's reconvene was virtual. William dialing in from the penthouse. Daniel at his side like a talisman. The screen flickered with faces. Mark smug, elders skeptical. Forensics report dropped like scripture. Forgeries confirmed. Digital fingerprints leading to Mark's slush fund and Dad's burner phone. Gasps. Mark blustered. Circumstantial. But votes swung. Ouster for him. Reinstatement for William. Plus a diversity mandate penned by Daniel's hand. Elation crested, but hollow. That night, over victory scotch, William proposed expansion. Head of creative. Equity stake. Build with me. Daniel hesitated. Ghosts lingering. What if it's not enough? The town's eyes. Dad's. William's gaze held steady. Then we make our own world. They sealed it slow. Bodies a vow. Tenderness threading urgency. Climax a release of pent fears. But dawn brought Mom's call. Hospital. Chemo relapse. Aggressive. Daniel raced to her bedside. William trailing, unspoken partner now public pillar. Mom lay pale against starched sheets. Monitors beeping soliloquy. "Knew you'd come," she whispered, gripping his hand. William hovered. Respectful. She beckoned him closer. "Take care of my boy. He's got a heart bigger than this town." Tears traced her cheeks. Daniel's followed. Dad lurked in the hall. Eavesdropping silence his penance. Spring unfurled reluctant. Dogwoods blushing Milford's edges. Daniel balanced. Hospital vigils. Creative launches. Stolen nights with William. Hargrove bloomed. New hires from diverse pipelines. Murals Daniel sketched adorning the lobby. Intertwined figures in steel and circuit. Symbol of fusion. Pride Month approached. William greenlit a float for the parade. Daniel at the helm. But conflict simmered. Mark, exiled to a desk in Delaware, funneled cash to local agitators. Flyers decrying Hargrove's gay agenda. Pickets at the gates. Dad joined the fray. Sober spells shattered by Union Hall rants. Chris mediated. Torn. He's cracking. Dan sees you winning where he lost. The breaking point brewed at Mom's vigil. Her room a shrine of get-well cards and morphine drips. Dad burst in unannounced, reeking, eyes wild, ranting at the monitors. This is God's judgment. For him. For all of us. He lunged at Daniel. Fists flying. William intercepted, pinning him against the wall with controlled fury. Nurses swarmed. Security hauled Dad out in cuffs. Assault on staff. The charge. Mom rallied briefly post-incident, squeezing Daniel's hand. Forgive him, baby. Not for him, for you. Her breath rattled final days later, slipping away at dusk. River visible from the window. The funeral was Milford muted. Baptist hymns, potluck casseroles. Dad slunk in back row. Hollow. Chris eulogized. Voice cracking on unbreakable bonds. Daniel spoke last. Trembling vows of love unbroken. Eyes locking with Williams in the pews. Grief hollowed them, but forged steel. Daniel moved to the cabin full-time. Designs flowing like catharsis. William proposed formally that summer. Beach at sunset. Ring simple platinum. Engraved no disgrace. Marry me. Build legacies. Not ghosts. Daniel yesed through tears. The yes a reclamation. Yet betrayal's echo lingered. Dad vanished post-funeral. Rumors of a relapse road trip. Bumming bars from Akron to Erie. Chris tracked him to a motel dive, hauling him back for intervention, AA meetings, grief counseling. He's sorry, Chris relayed, tentative. Won't say it, but shows up sober now. The wedding brewed intimate. Backyard affair at the cabin. River murmuring witness. 50 guests. Hargrove allies. Queer kin from New York. Sarah toasting with bubbly. Chris best man. Ribbing Daniel. From crash to this? You're a plot twist. Vows exchanged under oaks. William steady. Daniel's fervent. You defended me when I couldn't. Now, we defend each other. Honeymoon in the Keys Redux. Lazy days. Lovers not. Back home. Life wove. Hargrove expansions. Daniel's art show in Cleveland. A nursery sketched for future dreams. Dad appeared uninvited one crisp fall eve. Clean-shaven. A chip glinting on the cabin porch. Hat in hands. Heard the news. Congrats. Awkward pause. William watched from the door. Sentinel. Daniel nodded. Wary. Thanks. Maud want that. Tom shifted. Eyes downcast. I was wrong. About you. The crash. Everything. Lost her. Lost myself. No apology grand, but raw human. Daniel stepped forward. Clasp brief but seismic. Come for dinner sometime. Sober. Dad nodded, retreating to his truck. Taillights fading like old scars. Climax crested not in fury, but quiet revolution. Milford's pride that year. Hargrove float leading. Daniel and William arm in arm. Dad in the crowd. Clapping hesitant. No fanfare. Just presence, a bridge over chasms. Autumn's palette bled into Milford's veins. Crimson maples framing the river like brushstrokes from Daniel's sketchpad. The air crisp with cider and change. The cabin had become sanctuary. Exposed beams groaning under William's weekend renovations. A studio corner where Daniel's easel caught morning light filtering through pines. Morning started slow, coffee brewed strong. William's lips brushing Daniel's nape as he stirred. Murmurs of morning. Husband still honeymoon fresh despite the rings etched plain on their fingers. Marriage hadn't erased the fractures, but it caulked them, letting light seep through. Workdays pulled them apart gently. William helming boardroom salvos, salvaging Mark's sabotage fallout with buyouts and bylaws. Daniel diving into Hargrove's creative renaissance, mentoring interns from the local community college. Kids with stories echoing his own, wide-eyed and wary. One, a lanky teen named Jax with blue-streaked hair and a sketchbook scarred by eraser ghosts, reminded Daniel of Bleacher boyhood. You're the guy who stood up to the town, Jax said one afternoon, charcoal smudging his freckles. Makes this feel possible. Daniel's chest swelled. Payback not in revenge, but ripples. Chris thrived too. Promoted to ops director on Daniel's rebrand wave. Sarah blooming into motherhood with a second on the way. Family dinners resumed tentative. Sundays at the Victorian. Mom's recipes exhumed. Meatloaf with ketchup glaze. Apple crisp bubbling sweet. Dad showed sporadic. First visit stiff. Nursing decough like contraband. Eyes darting from Daniel's wedding band to William's easy chair claim. Conversation skirted landmines. Politics. Pasts in favor of baseball scores and baby ultrasounds. Progress. Glacial but grinding forward. Yet undercurrents tugged. Mark. Demoted to figurehead in Wilmington. Stewed venom online. Anonymous X-posts, formerly Twitter. Slamming Hargrove's woke decay. Dog whistles to Milford's MAGA fringe. Pickets resurfaced at plant gates. Faded flags and bullhorns decrying job-stealing sodomites. William fielded death threats with stoic calls to security. Daniel armored with art, murals exploding across town. Queer icons woven into steel motifs, reclaiming the rust. The real storm brewed internal. One frost-laced November eve. Post-shift unwind at the penthouse. William's concession to city nights. Daniel found docs strewn on the island. Relocation proposal. Chicago HQ expansion. William poured Merlot. Sheepish. Not leaving you behind. But the board. Global pivot. Asia markets. R&D hubs. Daniel's fork paused mid-bite of pad thai. And Milford? The life we built. William's hand covered his. Reassuring. Satellite office here. You run creative remote if needed. But the if nod. Daniel had roots now, Jax's mentorship. Dad's fragile truce. The cabin's hearth. Feels like running, he admitted, voice small. Again, William pulled him onto the rug. Fire-crackling confession. Not running. Evolving. With you. They made amends slow, bodies a dialogue. William's whispers mapping insecurities. You're my compass, Dan. Always. Winter clamped down. Blanketing Ohio in iron gray. Mom's absence haunted holidays. First Christmas without her. Tree trimmed with her angels. Lights dimmed by grief. Dad arrived burdened with pie store-bought. But effort and a tentative gift. Leather-bound journal. Pages crisp. For your drawings, he mumbled, avoiding eyes. Daniel flipped it open. Throat tight, inside. A note scrawled blocky. Proud. Finally. No sorries, but amends in ink. New Year's brought revelation. Chris hosted. Backyard bonfire spitting sparks into velvet sky. Neighbors mingling with craft brews and esmores. Jax tagged along. Shy in the crowd. Daniel introduced him to William, who grilled gently on college dreams. As midnight tolled, fireworks blooming, Dad clinked bottles with William. Awkward toast to family. Whatever shape. Daniel watched. Heart full. Jax's whisper awed. Your dad's. Cool. But betrayal's ghost stirred. February leaks hit. Mark. From exile. Doxed Hargrove execs. Daniel's address first. Cabin cords splashed on fringe forums. Trolls swarmed. Eggs flung at dawn. Slurs keyed into the truck's paint. William ramped security, cameras, gates, but Daniel seethed. He's not done. Won't be till we're dust. Counterstrike brewed cunning. Daniel, with Chris's data dive, traced Mark's digital lair. Shell core funneling agitator cache. They tipped the feds, insider trading ties, ethics breaches. Raid dawn. Wilmington headlines screaming Hargrove scandal. Treasonous Twin Falls. Mark indicted. Empire crumbling. William's statement gracious. Betrayal cuts deep, but justice heals. Spring thawed defenses. Dad entered rehab proper. Court-mandated post a DUI scrape. Emerging leaner. Clearer-eyed. First post-discharge dinner. Cabin grill. Steak searing. William flipping with tongs like a pro. Tom cleared his throat over beans. Voice gravel. I owe you words. To both. Pause. Fork scraping plate. Daniel, I failed you. Saw my fears in you, not your strength. William. Thanks. For seeing it. William nodded. Gruff. Families earned. Tom. Welcome. Daniel's eyes stung. Hugs followed brief. Bone-crushing. A dam breached. Climax crested at Pride, Milford's biggest yet. Streets awash rainbow. Floats rumbling main. Hargrove led, flatbed truck as stage. Daniel emceeing with Jax on guitar, strumming anthems raw. Crowd swelled thousands, faces familiar and fierce. Then, from the sidelines, Dad emerged, sign hoisted high, proud of my son. No fanfare, he just stood, clapped steady as the band rocked, born this way. Daniel locked eyes mid-chorus, mic trembling. This is for the disgraces who rise. Cheers thundered. William, beside the float, mouthed love you. Post-parade, after-party at the plant, beer tents, food trucks, queer elders swapping war stories. Dad cornered Daniel by the fire pits, embers glowing like embers of old rage banked. Saw your ma in you today. Fierce. Daniel clapped his shoulder. Stay for the show? Tom nodded, settling in, first time amid the flags. The love unapologetic. Summer hummed domestic. Garden plots tilled. Weekends hiking Hocking Hills trails. William's hand laced in Daniel's over root beer floats. Baby news from Sarah, boy. Dew fall, sparked nursery designs. Daniel's whimsy in blues and beasts. Therapy wove in. Joint sessions unpacking William's widow ghosts. Daniel's disgrace dogma. Human, the counselor termed it, flawed, forging. Fall harvest brought harvest of heart. Dad's AA sponsor gig, sponsoring Jax's uncle, a vet grappling outness. Chris's promotion party doubled as gender reveal, blue smoke curling skyward. Daniel sketched the scene, family tableau, no fractures visible. But drama's embers flared. October nor'easter dumped sleet, stranding Dad's truck in a ditch en route from meeting. Daniel and William towed him, chains rattling like chains broken. At the cabin, tow ropes stowed. Dad thawed over cocoa, stories spilling, Korean foxholes, lost buddies, the bottle's siren call postmom. Thought burying feelings made me strong, he confessed, mug steaming. Just buried me. William shared Elena's fade, cancer's quiet coup, his guilt armor. Common ground cracked open, vulnerability, the great leveler. Thanksgiving anchored it, full table, Dad carving turkey with steady hand, toasts circling gratitude. To second acts, William raised glass. Dad echoed, eyes on Daniel, and to sons who teach him. Laughter followed, genuine, gut deep. Winter's hush deepened bonds. Cabin holidays. Tree felled from backyard woods, ornaments heirloomed. New Year's bonfire redux. Resolutions whispered. Williams for balance. Daniels for legacy mentorship program formalized. Riley grants for queer artists. Dad joined, volunteering grunt work, hauling supplies, his calluses a bridge. Spring 2026 bloomed betrayal's burial. Mark's trial, guilty plea, prison shadows. Daniel testified, brief, unflinching. He weaponized family to fracture mine. Verdict sealed. Catharsis washed in. Climax's coda. Anniversary hike. 1 year wed. Atop a bluff overlooking the river. Ohio's vein. Lifeblood. William unpacked a picnic. Gouda. Grapes. That first scotch. Remember the diner? He mused. Arm around Daniel. Rain. Rage. You. Daniel leaned in. Wind tousling hair. Defended me then. Defend us now. William's kiss sealed. Every day. Summer solstice party. Cabin aglow. Lanterns strung like stars. Guests mingled, Jack's debuting gallery show. Chris toasting twins incoming. Dad grilling with William. Banter flowing easy. Fireflies danced. fiddles wailed folk tunes. Daniel watched from the porch. Sketchpad idle, moment too perfect for lines. Dad approached. Beer in hand. Non-alcoholic. Triumph. Never thought I'd say it. But happy for you, son. Daniel hugged him fierce. No words needed. Human. Messy. Mending. The years unspooled like film reels. Each frame a facet of forged family. Milford's skyline subtly shifting under Hargrove's hum. Daniel's murals metastasizing from factory walls to city hall friezes. Whispers of disgrace, evolving to nods of that couple. William's empire stabilized. Pivots to sustainable tech yielding green grants and TED invites. But home remained anchor. The cabin, expanded with a sunroom studio where Daniel mentored via Zoom. Voices from coasts and heartlands blending in pixels. Chris's twins arrived screaming September. Mirror images. One for each uncle to spoil. Diaper dashes became ritual. Daniel's graphic tees customized with beasties. William's lullabies baritone soft. Dad doted gruff. Storytime vet tales sanitized for tots. His AA chip collection a talisman on the nursery shelf. Grandkids fix what sons can't, he joked once. Bouncing a bundle. Eyes misty. Daniel let it slide. Healing hummed its own tune. Jax graduated that spring, art degree in hand. Internship at MoMA courtesy Daniel's network nudge. Going away bash at the diner, the neon sign repaired. A wink to origins, swelled with toasts. From Milford mud to Manhattan lights. Jax hugged Daniel tight. You showed me Disgrace is just draft one. William clapped his back. Proud proxy dad. Drama flickered residual. A 2027 board shakeup unearthed Mark's moles. Loyalists purged. Ethics oaths sworn. William weathered it lakeside. Daniel's head on his lap. Fingers combing silver threads. Tired of battles? Daniel ventured. William's chuckle rumbled. With you? Never. Their love matured vinous, less wildfire, more hearthglow. Lazy Sundays crossword in bed. Hikes punctuating with handholds. Anniversaries marked by custom scotch labels. Vintage us. Dad's redemption arced quiet. Rehab stuck. He volunteered at the youth center William funded, coaching basketball to queer kids. His whistle sharp but stories sharper. I was the fool once. Don't be. Daniel caught him at it one afternoon. Drill sergeant turned sage. A teen's grateful fist bump mirroring his own boyhood ache-healed. Maud Beam, Daniel said later. Beers on the porch. Tom nodded, horizon gazing. She did. Every day. Betrayal scar tissue tested once more. 2028. Dad's diagnosis prostate. Caught late. Chemo's cruel echo of mom's. Hospital vigils cycled. Chris tag-teaming shifts. Sarah baking pies. William fielding work calls from the waiting room. Daniel read to him Hemingway. Hard men softening, voice steady where Dad's faltered. Regrets. Tom rasped one midnight. For dripping. Daniel squeezed his hand. Papery now. Nah. We got here. Tom's grip tightened. Tears carving tracks. Love you, son. Disgrace was me. He rallied summer, remission tentative. But treks to the cabin for barbecues. Twins clambering his lap. Fall harvest fest. Combine rides. Cider presses. Dad's laugh booming rare and real. Winter claimed him gentle, home bed. Family haloed. Last breath a sigh with Daniel's name on lips. Funeral echoed moms. Hymns. Potlucks. But eulogies laced triumph. Daniel's. He fought demons. Found grace. Taught us forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's forward. Grief gilded gold. Spring 2029. William and Daniel adopted Finn, a freckled firecracker from Foster Frey, 5 and fearless. Nursery murals bloomed beasts anew. Finn's giggles filled halls, his Papa Dan and Daddy Will a symphony. Chris's crew grew playdates. Dad's journal, Will to Daniel, chronicled toddler scribbles now. Climax's quiet crest, decade wedding vow renewal, cabin garden lush under June sun. 50 swelled to 100 Jack's best man, grooms in linen, rings refreshed. Vows renewed deeper. Williams, you mended my world. Daniels defended my soul. Dance floor swirled. Finn twirling Sarah. Chris cutting rugs. Ghostly nods to lost ones. Post-revel. Hammock sway. Stars pricking velvet. William murmured, human enough? Daniel kissed his temple. Finn snoring between. More. Legacy. Years layered. Finn's school plays. Daniel's gallery retrospectives. Disgrace drafts. Cathartic canvases. Hargrove global. But roots rust deep. Queer center expansions. Grants blooming artists like wildflowers. Chris helmed local ops. Dynasty domestic. 2025's echo faded faint. The crash. The bottle. The diner defense, a origin myth. Told fireside to Finn. Once, a man called another disgrace. But love, it defended. And won. In Milford's murmur, they thrived, romantic in glances, dramatic in dreams, emotional in embraces, humanistic in the end. Not perfect, but profoundly whole.